I'm Bonnie Graves, and it's my pleasure today to be chatting with Mr. Jean-Pierre Wolff at Wolff Vineyards, located in the Edna Valley. We're kind of continuing our wine tour here, and I have to say I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this garden and I'm having that phrase, nice work if you can get it, go through my head. This is about the most scenic, beautiful place. Tell us a little bit about how you came to the Edna Valley and this beautiful piece of property.
Well, I acquired the vineyard with my wife 12 years ago, and this vineyard is one of the oldest vineyards in the Edna Valley.
When was it planted, the original vines?
In 1975.
Yeah.
So the vines are over 35 years old, and we have 125 acres, and it was originally planted only with Chardonnay.
Interesting. Now you still have, in fact we were just chatting because it's harvest time and you were talking about the Chardonnay being a little bit not quite where you want it for ripeness, but I think you said you just brought your Pinot Noir in, so harvest is underway.
It's underway. We're in the middle of it, and I'm smiling because we have harvested Pinot. That's usually the one grape varietal that gives me trepidation to get it just right at the right time.
It's true. We were talking off camera because winemakers are also really good publicists, and of course they want to say that every vintage is the most fantastic vintage ever. But particularly with Pinot Noir, you know, my background as a sommelier, Pinot Noir is really unforgiving because it really kind of showcases both the winemaking and the vintage itself in a very transparent way. So Pinot doesn't really let you have a lot of wiggle room for mistakes or under ripeness. So your feeling this year is really, and I've heard that from a lot of winemakers, that the 2012 harvest is looking great for Pinot.
I would say it's going to be probably an outstanding year, and you're correct in your observation. Pinot is the toughest grape to grow, and it's the finickiest wine to make. I usually say that you have to be a masochist with a good sense of humor to make Pinot Noir.
Or have a streak of the poet to make Pinot.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your background, how you came to winemaking and wine growing.
Well, originally, in my early days, when I was in my 16-year-old range, I wanted to be an agronomist, so I was ready to study agronomy, a 4-year program, and I switched to nuclear engineering and electrical power. And then about 15 years ago, I made full circle and got back into the farming side of my career. So this is my my latest chapter.
They're related pursuits, I think.
Yes.
For anybody who's of an engineering frame of mind, there's a lot of that same mindset that goes into making wine.
Yeah.
Perhaps more so than people realize. It's really a balance of sort of being a farmer and being a chemist, if you will, or having a certain scientific background. So I could see that working well for you, both sides of that.
Well, plus, you know, there's definitely a technical side, but there's also the creative side. And, you know, for one thing, I usually view the fact that wine is made in the vineyard, and the job of a winemaker is to try to bring the best.
And not get in the way.
Right, exactly. So we're very codependent to Mother Nature. And, but there has to be a creative side also. You know, wine is not made in the lab. You need to be able to inject your personality into the wine.
I call those wines Frankenstein wines. People sometimes wonder, a little guy named Charles Shaw Merlot, for example, when there's just millions of cases of this product, it's not exactly that there is someone like yourself lovingly tending the vines and producing wine in that volume. I think a lot of consumers, they don't necessarily understand how little, medium, and big and super, super big production levels impact the quality of the wine and the story of the wine. So I think you mentioned that you're at about 6,000 cases, which means that you're pretty small production when it comes to some of the big players, but again, that gives you the opportunity to really handcraft those wines, and that's popular these days, the handcrafted approach to winemaking. I think one of the things that we should probably talk about too is location, because we're in the Edna Valley, and people scratch their heads. They say, I know Napa, I know Sonoma, and if I'm really cool, I might know where Paso Robles is, but I really am not quite certain where this Edna lady and her valley are located. So we're in San Luis Obispo County. Tell us a little bit about the climate here in the Edna Valley and what appealed to you to go ahead and make your winery here.
Well, the Edna Valley is, geographically speaking, a transverse valley, meaning it's parallel to the ocean. There's an in and out to the ocean. We're here exactly 4.8 miles from the ocean. So although we're south, in the Central Coast. This is characterized as a cool climate. We average about an extra week, 2 weeks of fruit hanging time compared to Burgundy. So the coastal fog really is what tempers the climate here. And the Edna Valley predominantly is best known for cool climate varietals.
Like Chardonnay.
Like Chardonnay, Pinot. The Northern Rhone cool climate style Syrah would be another example.
Yeah, more Côte Rôtie in style, light years apart from big fruity Shiraz and things like that. You mentioned how close we are to the ocean. I think that's something that's also really unique about the Edna Valley and Arroyo Grande and some of the wine-producing appellations in this area is you can get to the beach in maybe 10 minutes. And so we're located, I would say, about 5 miles then from Pismo Beach. And I think, again, one of the uniquenesses of this area is wine and waves. You know, it's pretty unique. You don't do a lot of surfing up in Napa Valley. They've got some great wine, but you can actually get amazing wine in this area, and you can kind of hit the beach in the morning before you go wine tasting or vice versa. So that's a uniqueness about this area as well. Do you see a lot of your tasting room traffic? Are they locals? Are you seeing more international visitors? Or what kind of people are coming to Wolff Vineyards and tasting your wines?
We have a little less international visitors compared to a few years ago, but we have an increasing amount of visitors from Southern California and more visitors from Northern California, because I think some of the appellations in Northern California have become somewhat victim of their own success, becoming
traffic jams.
Big traffic jam, you know, not the relaxed atmosphere. So we do have more and more customers who say, you know, we'd rather stay overnight, come to Pismo, make it a stay, and making it a whole weekend, and being able to go wine tasting in a more relaxed atmosphere.
Jean-Pierre, you make a really great point. Look at this beautiful garden, and I know this is essentially part of your tasting room. So guests come here. We've got a super cute dog named Brixie, who's been wandering about the cutest winery dog I've seen in a long time. So that kind of casual warmth is something that increasingly you don't find in certain other areas where there's a pretentiousness associated with wine. In my part of the business for years, that's always just been a big gripe of mine. And my phrase has always been, it's just grape juice. It's just grape juice. You know, wine, you can be passionate about wine and have it be your calling or your career, but the goal is to open a bottle and share with friends, to share with guests, to help them understand your wine and what you're trying to do. And I think here in this setting, you really achieved something special. The wines are spectacular, but also I think the place itself is quite special.
Thank you.
So.
Yeah, you can taste wine and have sand between your toes as well.
And bring your dog. That's the other thing that's kind of unique about Pismo Beach and the wineries in this area is that it's very dog friendly and frankly kid friendly. We were talking about that. You know, people it's a more European model, I think, when it comes to appreciating wine. The idea that it's not a bar. You know, you're not dragging your kids to the bar. You're bringing your kids and having a picnic, and maybe mom and dad have a glass or two of wine, and you eat some food and play with the dog, and it's this more sort of holistic approach as opposed to, you know, obviously you're not going to pour wine for kids, but I like the way that you're sort of welcoming families as part of your approach here as well. Yeah,
and you know, the demographics are that you do have, you know, young couples with children, and you know, you should not have to wait 10 years, 15 years before you go wine tasting or having the kids with grandma.
My kids are with grandma, disclaimer.
All right. You're forgiven.
As we speak. I've been talking with Jean-Pierre Wolff of Wolff Vineyards. We're in the beautiful Edna Valley, and if you've not been to this part of wine-producing California, it really is a treasure. And I'm almost hesitant sometimes when we do things like this and talk about it and kind of share the secrets that it's going to become almost too popular. It's really a special place for me, and I think for a lot of people. Definitely worth your time. So come on down to Pismo Beach, and make sure you stop in at Wolff Vineyards for some amazing Pinot Noir Chardonnay. And I believe you're making Toral to go as well.
Yes.
How cool is that?
Rare Italian red.
Very good. Thanks very much. Look forward to seeing you here soon.
Thank you.